The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey everybody, good morning to all of you that are joining us. We're going to be starting in about 2 minutes. We want to start at 11 o'clock sharp. So in the meantime, feel free to grab some water, grab some coffee, a snack, something that, will hopefully keep you engaged with us. So we'll start in about 2 minutes. And in the meantime, we can talk about all that snow that Juan is getting over there in Boston because, I was looking at the news and I saw some crazy snow out there. I think it's in Europe, right, where they had snow all the way to the highest tops of the buildings.
I think it's I, like a third of the country. There's this huge snowstorm that is going to be over 2,000 miles of the U.S. are going to be affected. But I was hoping that this, master class was going to take my mind away from it, Steve. I don't want to be
I'm sorry.
thinking about, you know, if I'm going to have a favorite shovel this weekend or not. I think you know, that's the buy for the weekend. There's a lot of snow
Mm,
coming.
You gotta invest in that snowblower.
I used to have one when I used to live in Rhode Island, but now here in Boston, I don't have the room for it. So good
Okay.
old back and
Well,
shoulders. Yeah,
just imagine all the muscles you're gonna get after shoveling all that snow, dude.
yeah. Can't wait for my kid to get old enough so he can do it, not me.
Yep. I mean, that's the dream, right?
Yeah.
All right. So it looks like, people are trickling in. It's 11 o'clock here in California, where I'm at, 2 Eastern time, where you're at Juan. So let's go ahead and start. We're going to go ahead and start this master class. Juan, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah. Let me share my screen. I think you are the presenter for me now. Let me take over. There we go. And I want to show. There we go. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see your screen. We're seeing the presentation right now.
Awesome, awesome. So, where are we here today? Steve? Steve, we're going to be going over a Compleo Layout Forms master class, uh, especially about advanced designs workflows. And in case you just joined in, let me introduce myself. My name is Juan Rivera. I'm a solutions consultant here with Simtrax. I'm in the Boston office, and I've been with Simtrax for over 3 years now. And I am very happy to introduce, our main presenter today, which is Steve. Steve, you want to say a few words about yourself?
Yeah, of course. I'm also a solutions consultant here at Simtrax. Maybe some of you guys have seen me in the past. I've been here for almost 10 years. So, I'm gonna be the one that's gonna be leading the training, and hopefully you guys learn something. If you guys are new, this will be brand new to you, and we'll go step by step. Those of you guys who have joined in the past or know about Compleo, hopefully you learn a little bit more, when in our advanced design later in the presentation.
All right. So let's get started. Let's talk a little bit about Syntrax. I think everyone here knows that we are a document management company. We've been around for over 35 years now, and there's so much that we do, from e-invoicing to performing and reporting. We do records retentions, document, AI and machine learning. We do procure to pay, order to cash, automation, digital signature, digitalized workflows. I mean, all the good stuff that we know that we can do with the Compleo hybrid, everything that falls in the Compleo hybrid umbrella. But we have also, in the last couple of years, pivoted a little bit more with our Compleo invoice platform to do accounts payable and accounts receivable processing. And that includes invoice capture, standardized invoices with AI, three-way matching. My favorite option out of all of them is e-collaboration hub for approval workflow. And Steve, he smiles a little, but he knows the pain of having somebody check on you every like 15, 20 minutes to ask you about the status of a workflow, right?
Yep.
You don't want your coworkers to be bothering you that much. And lastly, when it comes to integration. So again, Compleo Hybrid, a lot of different solutions, right? But today we're going to be talking about Compleo Layout. We're going to go over how to enhance and upgrade your documents. And you'll see little sprinkles here and there of other solutions that we go. I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit about Supervisor, Those of you who are familiar with Compleo Explorer, you'll see that it's similar in a way, except we'll go over the differences between Explorer and Layout. But we also have other solutions such as like Compleo Websign if you needed to add signatures to your documents, Compleo Gateway, Compleo Archiver if you want to keep you want to keep track of those documents for the future. You just want to just save them somewhere. You want to find them easily. Well, Print Manager. I mean, the list just goes on. We have so many different solutions. But what is the difference, right? What's the difference between Layout and this other stuff? You might know a little bit of a Layout. You might have used it a little bit, but you don't really know everything. You had somebody ask you, "Hey, what's Compleo Layout?" What Compleo Layout helps you easily visualize your spool files. You can also modernize your documents with no development expertise. It can help you simplify document maintenance. And lastly, it can help you with rapidly distribute your documents. Whether you save these documents as a PDF and you need to save them on a local network folder, or you need to email them to a specific person, or you need to make sure that they're saved in the cloud, we can take care of all of that with Compleo Layout. Now, Steve, tell me a little bit about what you're going to be doing today.
Yeah, so you can actually see in Juan's screen here, this is going to be our agenda for today. Again, for those of you that are new, we're going to start out with the foundation of layout, how the interface works, what the buttons kind of do. And then after, our introduction to it, we're going to show you the visual design and branding. So adding your logos, adding QR codes, adding tables so that it all looks a little bit neater, because branding is really key. Adding some external text if that's something that you're looking to do. And once that design is done, we're gonna get to the adding intelligence, which is the logic and variables. If you guys have invoices with multiple pages, they don't always all align. So how we can take different page formats and make them look unique. Same thing, grabbing variables so that you can use them later for sending out an email or just naming your file, doing calculations, things of that nature. After we've added that logic, what comes next? The form now looks very nice. Where does it need to go to? That's going to be in our fourth part, which is the delivery. How do we get this document out? Do you need to send that out to your customer? Does it need to be stored locally on the cloud? We're going to get to that on our fourth part, and we'll actually show you something that's very popular that a lot of our customers use, which is emailing using the SMTP option, and show you something new. In this example, we're going to be showing you guys how to create or generate a neat looking invoice. And because we're showing you our invoice, we're going to show you something new, which is sending that invoice through our Compleo invoice platform. So that way you can view on an online dashboard whether that invoice has been successfully sent, when it was sent, the amount, things that management really looks for when, if invoices haven't been paid or hasn't arrived to the customers, you'll be able to view it on a holistic dashboard.
So I don't need to ping you every 15 minutes?
Exactly. You don't have to, bug me. You can go onto that platform. You'll be able to see if that invoice was sent out or not. All that information will be readily available.
Okay.
Yeah, and then lastly, so we're going to be working with the IBM side because a lot of our customers is more IBM based, but we do have customers on different systems. And so we're going to show you how you can take your IBM related template that we're creating within Layout and how we can transform it so that it can work with a different system, in this case, SAP. Because it's not going to be magic. There is some work to be done, but you don't have to do everything from scratch. You can just take what you've already done and modify it a little bit so that it works with your new system.
Okay.
And then, then at the end, we're going to get to our question and answers. And, if you guys are looking for anything specific, we can always offer a specialized demo for you guys. So I know I've talked a lot about what we're going to be doing, and really I'd like to know what you guys are looking to get out of this class. So I'm going to go ahead and start out a poll here, just so that you guys can answer. And this is, what are you guys most interested in this session? Are you guys looking to add barcodes? Are you looking to add maybe some dynamic logos? Are you guys looking to add external information? Or are you looking to maybe learn a little bit about how you can distribute those documents, whether that's email, whether that's printing, whether that's that's another favorite, printing, whether that's sending this document to a cloud like uh, Google Drive, Dropbox, SharePoint, things of this nature, or do you have something specific? If you do, please feel free to answer that in the chat. And Juan, who's my partner here, he's gonna be, answering any questions that you guys do have during this session as well.
Yeah, I see a lot of different answers coming in, which is good. I like that.
Yeah.
It means that we can go a little bit of every single one of the steps, and it seems that everyone here will get something out at the end of the master class.
Yeah, and it looks like a lot of people are actually looking to, add barcodes, which is, kind of a specialty of layout. We do have various barcodes,
Hmm.
128 being the most favorite, and then, some new ones like Maxi codes, QR codes, and some other E-related QR codes, Swiss codes, I believe.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go ahead and
I,
close this out because it does look like most of you guys have voted.
hmm
So, I'll try to focus on that barcodes during the session, but if I don't, if you guys have something very specific you'd like to ask, again, please feel free to ask in the chat.
I do like that. There's some answers here for adding um, external logos, which you know how I feel about that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Uh, let me. So, all right. So, what else? You've mentioned you're going to be doing all this stuff, Steve. I'm pretty impressed about everything that we're going to go. I'm imagining like I have experience with layout. I've been here over 3 years. I am not as knowledgeable as you. Like I am. It blows my mind how quick you can build all this stuff, but it also how with layout we're going to be doing everything that we just went over, but not just with an invoice, but we can also do it credit memos. We can do purchase orders, orders of acknowledgement, customer statements, checks, shipping labels, pick list, pack list, however you call it in your organization, delivery notes, product tags, transfer documentations, contracts, and it's just like the list just goes on. And I really like that about layout. It's not just about one specific thing. So if you don't use this currently for your invoices, but you see this other list of documents that you could utilize it, you could improve, you know, just try to visualize it that way, or maybe you have specific questions about something that would apply only to like shipping labels, especially it's a different type of size for the document that you're creating. So just reach out to us at the end, and we'll answer it to our best knowledge.
Yeah, that's great, Juan. So let me go ahead and, now that you got that list out, I'm going to go ahead and make myself the presenter. I'm going to show my screen, and hopefully you can see my uh, layout template that I'm gonna open up.
Mm-hmm.
So, to start off, I'm gonna show you guys an example that has already been created, and this is kind of what we're gonna be working to build off of. But I just want to give you guys a preview of how powerful layout can be, all the stuff that we're gonna add, so that way you guys can visualize, um, what we're gonna be running today. So let me go ahead and bring this up. So I do have two different templates here. One for an IBM related spool file and one for SAP. So I'm just going to go ahead and navigate. I'm going to go through all of this in a little bit, so I'm just going to speed this up so that you guys can see how this works. So I'm just going to select an invoice from, in this case, an IBM spool file. As you can see, this is kind of the original view. This is how it looks like. With Compleo Layout, we can format it, we can modify it so that it has a new look and feel, make it look a little bit more modern, more branding. You have a better looking logo, you have some QR codes, and at the end, we are sending this out in an email. So I'm just gonna open up this process so you can see that within the run mode, this is where we're emailing out. You can see we have the SMTP email out driver. So, we have all of this already created in a template, and that's what we really want to focus on here is going to be, making all of this work be saved onto a layout template so that we get to the point where we can use it for automation. So what I'm going to be showing here right now is just going to be a simple demonstration or simulation of what a end user would do. Typically they're going to go ahead and create an invoice like this. It's the same invoice that you see in the background. So once they create that invoice with Compleo Layout, as soon as that's gets created. I don't know if you heard that chime, but I did. That means I got an email. So we can see that, we have an email. This has been automated with Compleo. It's using, Compleo in the background to generate this neat looking invoice. It's the same one that I'm showing you guys. So you can see we have, all of that formatted, as well as additional terms and conditions on this invoice. So we're even adding things that aren't on the original file. And one neat thing is that, if you guys are sending out invoices to your customers, you don't know if they received it. Again, we have an additional features with Compleo that if, if you're sending out invoices, you can actually send that out to our invoice platform. You can see that we have a new entry here. If I scroll to the right, um, maybe let me back up a little bit. I went a little too ahead of myself. But this is our Compleo invoice platform. This is what we use for accounts payable invoice automation. So invoice that are coming in, we can automate it so that it gets into your system. But we can also use it for accounts receivable. So if you guys are sending out sending out invoices with Compleo, then you can view all those invoices, and that's what we're seeing here. This is the invoice that I just sent out. It has different columns, different fields that you can see, the invoice date, the amount, currency, things of that nature. You can also see the actual email that was sent out. So what I just showed you guys, it's the exact same thing, but you have clear visibility. You can see that it was successfully sent. We can even take a look at other invoices like this one here. It looks a little bit neater, a little bit better. And this was sent by Adam. Again, this is somebody else that's sending out invoices. So we can see all that information as well as the invoice that has been sent out. So everything, we have a holistic view of invoices that are being sent out. We can see that it's sent out on different dates. It's got different amounts. And yeah, so
And
uh, I'm not,
this is a SaaS solution, right?
yes,
Meaning
and
it's not
exactly.
something that it's installed into your system. It's basically you log into a website and the information is there. So if I'm not in the office, if I'm not on the VPN, if maybe I'm in the warehouse and I just have a tablet and I need to know, does this information go out? I could check it out from there.
Exactly correct. It's a SaaS
Okay.
solution, so you could even check it on your mobile website. So even if you guys are on vacation, if you guys are out of the office, you guys just went out on the shore and you're wondering, hey, I haven't seen an invoice be paid for this specific customer. Let's take a look at this invoice platform and see where that's at. Did it actually sent out? You can view that here.
Yeah. Especially the mail status, right? Like if you're sending a lot of invoices and maybe the email is incorrect or there's something that did not work out, and then you'll get it there, right?
Exactly. We'll be able to view that all in here.
Now, could I go in there and change anything?
You can't. This is just a snapshot view of
That's
invoices
good.
that
So
has been sent out.
that way you don't have to worry about me, which is different than if I had access to, let's say, supervisor, and I was trying to get the codes, like find out if something get sent to the supervisor or not, and I could, you know, change
Exactly. You,
things
you
around.
can't fudge no numbers here. You're gonna whatever
Yeah.
you see, it's
Yeah.
that's just a view. That's just a snapshot view. There's nothing that you can
Okay.
modify here.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, this is a neat thing that's new with Compleo. It's our invoice platforms for accounts payable and accounts receivable. One last thing that I do want to just kind of, sprinkle in here is that if you guys are doing EDI, we can work again with both incoming invoices or outgoing invoices. So here we're going to see outbound invoice. If we go here to our approved platform, we'll see a little bit better view of invoices that have been sent out. So you'll see if I click on one of these, invoices, we can actually view this. And as most of you guys may know that or work with EDI, know that most of the files that are sent out through that process are a structured format, whether that's XML, whether that's JSON. So it's more made for machines to read. But with Compleo, it does make it a little easier. We make, because we are in that document management space, we want to make it easy for our customers to look at, the invoices that are through EDI. So here we are able to view all the information coming from that structured file. But if you want to see a PDF view of it so that it's easier to read for somebody that may be reviewing it, we have this option called Show PDF that actually makes a PDF for you, and you're able to view all of the line items, all of the totals, all of the taxes within that file.
Well, you can even have an option to download and print from there, right? In case somebody still want it, maybe they
Exactly. So you can
for
print
whatever
directly
reason for their
from it.
records they want to print it or they want to download it. Yeah.
Exactly correct. You can also see the history of when that invoice has been, submitted. It's been sent out, when it was issued, if it's been received, if it's been available, if it was rejected. We can go to a different invoice here. Take a look at this, and we can actually see the actual rejected rejected status. What was the issue? Look at this one here, so you can see this document was rejected because it failed validation. So because again it's EDI, it has specific errors, and then with Complete Invoice Platform, you will be able to see what those errors are, and if through this platform you can also resubmit invoices, or you can update the status. Maybe it was sent out on the wrong date, or whatever the case is. You can have it so that within the platform you can make those changes. Again, because it's EDI, it makes it a little bit easier to work, machine to machine. Awesome. So
Okay.
yeah, I just wanted to sprinkle that in. It's a little bit of what's new with Compleo. So now let's go ahead and get started with the actual layout creation. So I'm going to go ahead and start creating our layout template. I'm going to just do a quick search for layout so that I can open that up and start a whole new project. So as soon as you guys open up layout, this is what you'll see. Um, and this is where we're going to start, our training. I'm going to show you guys navigating through the different screens through the interface. So as soon as you open up layout, this is what we see. It's kind of a blank screen because layout does require a file to work with. So by default, we can start working with files within the Windows environment. So we can start by clicking on the desktop. If you have specific files on a folder, you can work with that. So with Compleo, you can work with PDFs, you can work with text files and make modifications as needed. We can also work with, directly or natively with IBM and SAP because we do have certified connectors. So if I click on one of these on the IBM, if I click on one of the connectors and click edit properties, this is where we can add our connection to the IBM. You'll need to know either the name of the system or the IP, as well as user login information. If everything is correct and you hit check connection, you will be able to actually see that the information from the IBM, what version you're running, the serial and the partition. So, this is a good sign that you are able to connect. There aren't any issues. So as soon as you click OK, we will actually be able to expand the connection and look at the out queues. Similarly, with SAP, we do have connectors. We can connect through ECC. We can connect on S4. So we do have different. We can connect to different systems. Kind of the same way. If I click on Edit Connection, here's where we will add the information for the SAP system. Again, if everything is correct, you have the credentials needed to log in, and you click test connection, you will actually be able to connect to the SAP and expand on that and look at output devices. So just know in this trading, I might confuse the output devices and out queues because I use them interchangeably because of this reason. So if I say, I'm looking at the IBM output device, just know that I get a little bit confused, but
Right.
um,
And
flip,
and we get it, Steve. You have too much knowledge. That's
I guess.
things jumble there a little. But so you're telling me that if you're someone like or average client here at Simtrax, they stay with us for 14 years. And if one day they're like, hey, we're not using the AS400 anymore, we're gonna go to SAP. All that work, all the templates, all the documents that we have been managing for them, they don't have to reinvent the wheel. They can bring it up to, let's say, SAP or a different type of ERP that they're going to.
Exactly, that's correct. So we're gonna actually show you how to do that. So first we're gonna create that layout template for the IBM and then use that same template, make modifications so that it works on the SAP system.
Perfect.
So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and click on one of these out queues, and as soon as I click on one of these spool files, you'll see that we are able to view the file. We are able to now have a new tab called Layout Template where it does have the design. Before I do go there, I do want to just kind of mention we do have different actions on this screen. So if you wanted to make changes to how you're going to be working with the file, like you can see the input here is a graphics mode and a text mode. So within the IBM, there are different protocols that are used. So if you're using AFPDS, because that's the way that it's used to create forms, you'll have a view like this. It can switch this to text mode so that it's a little bit easier to work with. I can work with this particular file, and it just makes it a little easier for Compleo to grab the corresponding text. Kind of going to the next slide, or to the next point here, we do have a resource center where we can have a central location for things like variables, for connections to your printers, connections to email connections like 365, and we can use this throughout your templates. I'm going to actually be showing you guys how we can use a shared connection to send out an email later on. But just know that there's like a central location where you can have resources and use them for your layout template. And then lastly, this option here varies by the system. But within Compleo, we can actually filter information that you're able to view for spool files. So for instance, if I wanted to see the current user's spool files, it's not going to show because the current user is Adam, and Adam, doesn't have a reason to be sending out spool files to my out queue. So if I wanted to see, all of the users, I can view that here, and you can see that, there's different users that have placed files here. And all I'm going to do is click on others, and I just want to see mine. The reason why is because I have there's a ton of files here, and there's different ones. So there's a purchase order. This one's an invoice. This one is a different type of purchase order. So within an out queue, you can have different, different files, different processes that run within one. You want to pick the correct one that you want to work with. So in this case, we're going to choose this one. This is the invoice. This is what we want to work with. And now we can navigate to our layout template. So just to kind of start off, within layout on the top hand side, we have this ribbon where we can grab information like the text zones. If I do this on the original view, and let's say I want to grab information from the building, the build 2. If I go to the final view, you'll see that there's kind of a box that's hovering around here, and I can take that information and move that around. So it's, Compleo makes it really easy to move information, modify information, so that it looks a little bit neater. And you can see that in the final view, it has the exact same look. And for me personally, I don't like working off of old information or just information that's already on there. I like to kind of build off on my own. So what I can do so that I can start from scratch is remove this option called original objects. You can right click and use this setting called retain original objects so that I can remove everything. And now I can just kind of start working from scratch. Let's go to the original view just so that we can see again. I want to show you guys the navigation side of things. I want to show you guys what everything does, because I'm going to be going through all this kind of flying by. So, I just want to take a little bit of time here and kind of go through everything. So here, with barcodes, I can click on the barcode option, and we have different types of barcode, as I mentioned in the beginning. We can add QR codes, we can add SSCC18, which is a very popular one for shipping labels. Code 128, also a very popular option. And if I wanted to create one, I can just simply click and create a box around the information that I want. If I go to the final view, I'll be able to see that barcode here. So I just wanted to show that option here. And same thing with moving zone and erasing zone. Moving zone just allows you to move the corresponding information from one place to another, while erasing zone actually allows you to erase the whole thing. if I click on this, it's not going to show because I don't have the original objects. But if I go back, you can see that erasing zone that I've added basically erase the information. So if you guys do like to use the original information, just know that those options do exist. Go ahead and kind of go back here. And then these items are not highlighted because these are within the original view. These are things that you add at the end when you're designing. So now let's actually get to the final view. This is where we're going to start designing the actual invoice. So now here we're at part 2. We just finished the first part. It's been about 10 minutes, kind of as expected. I went through most of the navigation of Compleo Layout because we do Compleo Layout is a WYSIWYG editor. It's what you see is what you get. So all of the things here that you see is what you can use. We do have different options at various levels. So options at text zones levels, options within the template. So if I actually click on the template, you can see that there's more options that are provided. Same thing with the page format. And we're going to go through all of this. So let's kind of start designing now, right? So the first thing that I do want to do is add my logo. So the easiest way to do this is I'm going to go ahead and click on this image option and just create a box around where I would like my image to be at. And so what I'll do is I'm going to use a local file. I can use a centralized file. These are files within a database. So if you guys are in database mode, you can use resources within that information to grab your image. But here I'm just going to use a local file. Let me go ahead and for a logo here.
Well, especially for those that are on database mode and they might have all those images, you have somebody who's in charge of creating different logos for your company. It might be related to season or different promotions that you might have, and then somebody can just put them there and they'll be available for all the users to change through the year.
Exactly, correct.
Steve knows I love the logo part. I think that it's great for marketing. It's great for visibility. He knows that my complaints about sometimes I'll buy something or I'll get a gift from somebody and there'll be like a packing list and you can just see it's just a spoof file. There's no logo. There's nothing. And then I'm like, do I remember the brand of these winter boots I just got? Now I have to go and find the boots because I just can't. Well, it could have been there from the moment that I open it. It's a lot of missed opportunities.
No, that's right. That's right. That's correct. One thing that's here, I'm just going to kind of add is a QR code. So again, branding wise, if you guys want to add a QR code so that whenever a customer does receive an invoice or they receive they receive a transport document or a logistic document, you could kind of set it up so that this particular QR code sent them to an order page or some page within your organization so that they can order more if they need to. We can add that QR code and it makes it easier because everyone now has a phone. They take pictures. They might even take a picture of this invoice, send it out to their manager. That manager wants to do business again, so it makes it easier. So they just look at that QR code and it goes to that specific screen. So now that we've added the QR code, we can add, a text zone. This, you can again make a box around anything that you want to add. And what I'm going to do is just add an invoice text box. This will, kind of create an invoice text where you can use it. So I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger. You can make this, as intricate as you want. You can add color, make this look a little bit neater. If you want to make this a specific color, you can use custom colors and kind of go through what kind of color you want. So let's make this, let's see, let's kind of coordinate here. So we'll use an invoice, and then to make this even look a little bit neater, we'll use italics. We'll underline it. And now we have our invoice title. So now that I've kind of created a little bit of the basis of our invoice, I'm going to go back into original view and I'm going to start grabbing information that I want. So in this case, as I did before, I'm going to use the text zone and just make a box around our build to information, which is right here. This will allow me to use that information on our final invoice view. And this is going to be our build to. We don't actually have that bill to. So what I'm going to do is create a table here. And this is kind of cheating. So this is a little bit, this is just to style this particular form a little bit neater. So what I'm going to do is create 2 rows. One where it's going to have the bill to information, like the bill to actual text, and the information for the bill to. So let me go ahead and create another text zone. We'll make it as a bill to. And then again, just make it look a little bit neater. I'm going to make this in white. And you might say, well, why? Actually, I'm going to keep it in black. So we'll say okay. And now what I can do is within this actual text zone, you can see that if I wanted to place it on a certain field within the table, it's highlighted. And I'm going to put it to the very top, and that's actually going to fill out on the actual space. So I'm going to do the same thing with the bill to information here. And now we have that information. It doesn't look as neat as I want it to. So now we're going to get into the actual formatting of this particular field. So what I'm going to do is make this look a little bit neater by aligning this not at the top, but at the center. So you're going to see that it goes from like all the way up here right to the center. I'm also going to add a fill color again, just to make this look a little bit more modern. And we'll use this kind of hue. And if I want to keep on using this one, I can add a custom color, and you can see that now I can just click on this particular field and it'll grab that same color scheme every time.
Oh, I'm glad you went over that because I am so colorblind. I don't think I could figure it out. It's still like the same color
Fine.
again. I'll be there all
Yeah,
day.
exactly. It looks a little different. It looks a little different from the actual invoice, which I did want to use because I don't want to make every single thing the same exact color.
Yeah.
So we have that now created the bill too. It looks a little bit neater. We stylized it a little bit. Now this particular font, and this is kind of for particularities, doesn't really match what's on here. If I click on this, you'll see that this is an Arial. If I double click on the bill to information, this is Courier New. So now that information, that font doesn't align. I don't like the way that it looks, but with Compleo you can make those changes easy. We can go from Courier to Arial. I just did that. I can hit apply, and you'll see that that information has now been updated. One thing that I do want to add here is that, there is also some space in the front. It's not very, you can't really see it too much, but because I've done, a lot of forms, I know that there is space, and I don't want that space there. So I can add specific formatting. Here you can see we have conditional format so that we can get rid of any spaces, whether that's forward or backwards. And I'm going to do this in all of the text zones. You can make this very specific to a word or an expression. So if you wanted to highlight a specific word, you can do that. Really here, I just want to use the whole text zone, and I want to say, hey, if there is any blank space at both ends, you can select it that it could just be at the beginning, at the end. But I want to say, if there's any space at both ends, let's go ahead and get rid of it. And this is just for good practice because we're going to be using this specific format pretty much throughout this whole training. Because if let's say we grab a total and it has a lot of spacing and you want to use that when you're sending out email, then, it's not going to look very good. And so this is just for, again, good practice. So now I added this format. You won't see it yet, but if I hit apply, there's like a little change. Right. I know it's very minimal, but it still makes a big difference.
I saw it.
Awesome, awesome. That's great. So now one thing that I've added here is the bill to, and now I want to add other information coming from the invoice. Things like the invoice number. So we're gonna add that. I want to also add, the invoice date, the net terms of payment, and we'll kind of keep this as is. One of the other things I want to add is a customer number. So these are things that I'm going to add. I'm going to hit OK. I'm not adding anything, manually. We're going to grab information from the original spool file as variables and then place them on here. But again, that's going to be a little bit later in the intelligent and logic design of it. So we're just going to leave this as is, and you can see that that's here. Let's make this a little bit bigger just so that we can kind of match with what's on the left-hand side. So we'll put this here. And now, just to make this a little bit neater, I'm going to use this line so that I can kind of space out what's the header information and what the line items are going to be. Last thing that I do want to add is I'm going to add a sales rep text box before I start adding the information from the file. I'm just going to add, who was the one that created this invoice. It was what sales rep, and I can use. Okay, well, actually, leave that for a little bit later. So now that I've done this, I want to grab information. I want to start grabbing the actual items that are on the invoice. So what I'm gonna do is create a text box that has how many fields? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So again, just create a text box and have 5 fields here. Just by default, it starts off with 2. So I do want to have 5 columns, and as soon as I create 5, you can see that 5 columns are created. They're not very equal, so what we can do is use this space equally option. You'll see that that information is spaced equally. We'll adjust this as we need to, but we'll see once that data is added on here. So just like before, what I want to do is create a text zone, and instead of grabbing information from the original view, I'm just going to create one text box and kind of format it, copy and paste it. So I want to kind of reduce, reuse, recycle. That's kind of like a theme. We want to reuse whatever we create. And in this case, if I create a text zone, I want to just kind of add everything in one. I'm going to create a description. Use that same color scheme to fill in the color, which I guess didn't save. I thought it did save. Let's try to grab kind of similar colors. So now here I have that text box. I'll use this description, and I'm going to format it just as before. I'm going to want it to be in the center, but I want this to actually be centered on both vertically and horizontally. So I'm going to go back here, highlight this, and center this. So now that I've centered it, we'll be able to see that here. And as I mentioned, I don't want to keep redoing this. I don't want to keep on selecting all the colors. So what I can do is copy. I can right click copy. I can paste it, and then I can start adding it to different fields. All I really have to do now is just change the title of these columns. So let's create 5 different fields, and let's start changing this around. So let's go to the original view. This is going to be unit price. Put that here. This will be the quantity. Again, just to kind of speed up the process, instead of creating this one by one, I just copied. All I'm doing is changing the titles. So this is going to be the net price.
You're saving me hours of work, Steve.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we want to do, right? We want to make this as painless as possible. And so now we have all of those fields that we're going to grab. And what we can do is now grab that information from the actual spool file. So if I right click here and I make this a little bit bigger than before, I make this a little bit longer just in case, we will see that I've created a text box in the original field so that I can grab the original data. And if I go to the final view, we'll be able to see that here. So now what we want to do, or what we can do, is put this onto the description. And now you'll see that it's a little bit it's wrapping around. It's not where it needs to be. So we can make adjustments to these columns as needed so that we can actually view the information. Let's make the quantity very small on the unit price here. So now we've added it, and in that same fashion that we did where we have kind of copied and pasted the titles, we're going to do the same with the fields that we're grabbing from the original file. But before we do this, again, it's best to kind of format the way that you want information to look before you start copying and pasting. So you saw how I modified the text alignment of the description to be in the center. We're going to do kind of similarly with fields coming from the original view. So I'm going to double click on that text box. Again, change the formatting from Courier to Arial. We'll apply it. It makes that change. We'll add formatting in here where we want to delete empty lines. So you can see that there are there's empty lines here that we don't want to grab. So we're going to say OK. And then we hit apply. You can see that it kind of goes up. And this is just for good practice. As I mentioned before, another good practice operation or option for formatting is trimming the blank space. We do have different options here. It's kind of a lot to go through. Just know that there are options like for changing cases, substituting text, replacing it, formatting specific numbers or dates. In this case, again, for good practice, we want to trim the blank space, hit OK, and apply. So now that we've added that information here, let's go ahead and load this up a little bit. So now that we've added that information, I've already formatted what I want, how I want it to look. What I can do is go to the original view and now make copies of these. All we're gonna have to do is make a text box around the information that we want to grab. Let's make this a little bit bigger just in case these numbers are bigger. And you can see that now it shows up here. I can move that to the unit price. And now we have that same type of formatting. In this case, I want to format this a little bit neater, actually. Let me show you guys actually something new. Let's say even if you guys don't follow that kind of method where you're copying and pasting, if you want to just grab text boxes and let's say I make these text boxes here. Let's kind of make these similar. Another one here for the total price. All I'm gonna do is add these on to here. I think I missed. Where is my quantity one? Let's see. Well, let's grab another text box and let's make it around the quantity. So let's go ahead and grab this quantity. Yeah, so even like let's say you just grab all that information and you don't necessarily follow how I do it. As long as you format one of those text boxes, what Compleo allows and is powerful in is that I can copy the same format and place it onto these different fields. I'm clicking on each of these with control, and I'm going to use this option called paste special. This shows the power of layout and how you don't have to just kind of do things one by one. You can actually take all of the properties that we've added and keep that same functionality within that whole space. So we're going to be able to see that we've added that same format along here. And so now you can play around with these. Maybe you want the total price instead of being on the left-hand side or on the right. Yeah, the left-hand side to be on the right-hand side. We can make that change. We could see that here. And get rid of this thing. Let's move this table up here a little bit so that we can work with that information a little bit neater. Just going to move things a little bit higher so that we can make room when there is a total price outside of this. Right. So, now we have pretty much the look and feel of the new invoice. ready. We are missing a few key information, and this is where we start getting to the actual the logic of designing this particular invoice, because we are missing fields for these invoice number, the invoice date, customer number, and net terms of payment. This information, except for the last part, which is the net terms of payment, are within the original view. And the reason why I just don't grab it, how I normally grab it with the text zone, is because I want to use this information when I'm sending out an email. I can reuse that same information. And to do that, I'm going to go ahead and go into the template level. This will allow us to use variables. So here you can see, as I click on this template option, there's going to be a variable option on the top. And here, this is where we can grab information from the original file. If we use text selection variables, we can grab external information through a database query variable. This allows us to query databases, so that if there's missing information like a phone number, maybe an email you want to add, we can grab that information so long as you have that database. We can, add calculated value variables, SAP variables. So these are very specific to SAP and others. So I want to show you guys like a basic variable example. Oh, a few of them is I want to grab the invoice number. So I'll call this as an invoice num, and I'll make this text box just as before. You'll be able to see that there is this invoice number. Again, just for best practice, in case this number, for whatever reason, might be a little bit shorter than what I've grabbed, what I can do is just trim blank space on both ends. This will allow us to remove any unnecessary information. Let's go back to the template. So I got the invoice number. Next, I want to grab the invoice date. So I'm going to leave this as INV date. And then I can grab this information here, which is the invoice date. I'll hit OK. And same thing, I'm just going to keep reusing that option, trim blank space. One neat thing is, if, let's say, a particular spool file that you're working with, is set to a European date format, and you wanted to format it so that it's kind of a different style, you can use this option called format number or date, and you can set the specific format on how it should be. If it should be month, day, or year, day, month, year. So you can format that, if you need to. We won't do that now. I just wanted to show you guys that that option does exist. So we have now the invoice number, the date, and the last thing that we want to grab is the customer number, and that's right next to the invoice number. So we're going to say customer number and grab this field here. So we have that oh, I made it a little too big, but no worries. We can always move this around and make changes as we need to. And last thing I want to add for formatting is a trim blank space, just in case. So now that we have the information that we need, I can go back into the final view and add this information on the top. So let's add the invoice number. Again, as before, I can grab variables using this V square. This will allow us to grab variables from the actual file. So if this is a spool file, you can see information from the spool, like the username, the job number, the spool number, the creation date, and you can view system information like the current date, current year, current month, things like that. For variables that we created, these are user defined variables. So I'm going to use that option here, and I'm going to use the invoice number option. Same thing for the invoice date. Go back to that same screen, use the invoice date, customer number, we'll add that next. And then for net terms of payment, we're going to set this as net 30 because all of our invoices are set for net 30, just, as an example. I wanted to show you guys something that's there. And now I know that this is kind of wrapping around. You're not able to see all of that information very neatly, but because we've kind of designed it the way that it is, it shouldn't wrap around at the end. So now that we've added kind of the necessary components, let me just go make this a little bit smaller just in case we need a little bit more room. Let's put this up a little bit. So now that we've added this, we've got most of our information done. One thing that
And
we are
you
missing
could
here. Go ahead.
change the size of the font of the descriptions and everything if it was too much information for one page, correct?
Exactly. Yeah, and this is just kind of the design of it. You can make this a little bit smaller, make this move things a little bit higher up. Um, One thing that I did forget to add is going to be, our billing address. This being Simchex Corporation, it's going to have our direction as well as who we should be paid to, and we're just going to have our website here. Again, branding. We want to have all that information readily available for the customer, so that even if they receive this electronically, they can basically click on that hyperlink and it'll take them to the website. All right. So, and I'm very guilty about this. I've done a lot of work, but I didn't save it. And this is I'm very bad at that. Where I do a lot of work, I don't save it. So if you guys are like that, don't be like me. Save your work because if something happens, we don't want to go have all that work go to waste. But if it does crash it for whatever reason, Compleo does have that safety feature that it will open up a template that you were working with previously. So this one, let's say IBM invoice template. Let's hit save. So we're not done quite yet. And the reason why is, it looks good. It looks nice. One thing I want to add, just so that I can add a better look and feel to this, I want to add this kind of square box on the top so that I can add a fill color. It'll make it look a little neater. Let's make this look a little bit brown. That's okay. It's kind of covering everything, but we can set that all the way to the back. Oh, sorry. All the way backwards. Sorry, sent to the back. And now it'll have that information here. We can view that. Let's make this look a little bit neater. Now we have a more modern looking invoice. If I wanted to make this even look a little bit neater, I can draw specific bands, make this look a little bit neater. You can see that I can add bands. I can add a height of like 1.5. Let's see how that looks. Looks like I might need to offset this a little bit.
I mean, I could see that being very useful if you're creating packing list and somebody in the warehouse needs to go off that document and make sure that everything is together, and maybe they can print one out for them to check,
Right,
manually.
exactly. So we can add those. It makes it a little neater. However, this works for pretty much all the pages. But if let's go to the last page to see if it works. It doesn't necessarily work for the last page, mostly because if I go to the original view, I can see that it's not going to work for this particular page because it has a different look and feel to it. So now this is where we get to the logic of, well, we might need different page formats for different pages. We've done a lot of work so far, and which is great because what I can do is take that same work and I can add a copy of this page format with the exact same things that we've done. You can see here I have one and a copy of one. So now to make this a little bit less confusing, we can kind of give this a name. So we can say that this particular page format is going to be for the last page, and this other is going to be for the rest of the pages. Rest of the pages. So they have that same look and feel. The only thing we want to kind of add is we want to make this work with if there's only one page or if there's multiple pages, and you'll see information like this where we have information that does not match up. So now we have to add some additional functionality where, let's say, we don't know how big this field is going to be. So we're going to keep this as it is because that's kind of the max size of what the field is. However, we're grabbing additional information that we don't want, so we want to remove that. And we can do this by clicking on here and using a format again, where I want to say if there is, let's see, I want to substitute text. So if there is any underscores, what I want to substitute it is with nothing. That means I'm just getting rid of a line, the whole line item. So I'm going to say OK. So now you can see that that line was erased. It's not showing yet because I haven't hit apply, but I can apply this now, and you'll see that that line is gone. And as I mentioned before, Compleo really makes this easy to make the changes from one and kind of copy it to the rest. So now what I'm going to do is copy this format, click on the rest of the boxes, and use, again, that same option called Paste Special. And we'll just select all of these. It kept that the previous format as before, so let's just modify this here. We'll hit apply here for the total price. We just want to make sure that that looks the same. But here we are missing one particular field, and that's the total, right? Because this is the last page, it should have the total. So what I am going to add is another table, and I'm going to make this here, and I'm going to show you how to format it so that it's always under this table. In this case, I want to have 2 rows. Make this a little bit bigger. Move this around. And to not make this even more complicated and like start a text box from scratch, I'm just going to use one of these. I'm going to copy, paste it, put it right here, where this is going to be the grand total. And now, just as before, because I do want to use this grand total price, what I'm going to do is instead of just grabbing it as a text box, I'm going to use a variable. However, I'm not going to grab it on the template level, because of the template level, it only grabs on the information from the first page. I want to grab this at the page level. So I want to use a text selection variable and grab the total, which is going to be here. Let's make this a little bit bigger. We can use, again, the good practice of formatting so that any additional space is removed. So I'm going to say grand total. So we'll hit OK here. Let's use that formatting. Trimming blank space at both ends. And now that we have this, we're going to go to the final view. Here in this case, I'll create a text box quick. And then use the variable I just created. You can see that this is the grand total here. And hit OK. So now we're going to have the grand total. Let's add additional formatting so that it's on the left-hand side. So we'll be able to see that. And now let's just kind of adjust this as we need to. And one neat thing with Compleo is that we can also make it so that, well, 2 things. We can make this specific table be automatic. So if it's if you have additional blank items that you don't need, we can make this smaller. However, this becomes a problem with other tables that you create. To solve this, we can use this object position so that we can say that on the top of this particular table, we want this to be below the last table we created, which is this one here. So we want to say this is 0 below. This will bring this up to that table. So even if this shifts around, because now this is an automatic table, this will shift up and down as it needs to. And this grand total table will shift alongside it. So now that we've done this, one thing that I want to add here is that we've done work to the last page. However, we're not saying that use this particular format for the last page. We have to add that on the top hand side where it says page numbers. This is where that effect takes place. So we want to say only use this format on the last page, and we denote a last page using a pound sign. You can actually see if I hover over this, you can see that it gives us some information saying, hey, if you want a specific page number, you can add it in this format. The last page is denoted as a pound. If you want X pages, it's a pound and an X. So, we give you a little bit of information there. You can also add conditions, like if there's a specific information on a file that has to look a certain way, you can add that as well. We're not going to do that now because we do get to that complex state, but just note that you can have different options, different conditions for different pages, different formats, things of that nature. So let's save it. So before I start, now that I've done kind of all of the design, let's just make sure that it works well before we start getting into sending out the email. And in order to be able to view this design, we can go into the run mode and add a process. We can do that on this looking gear. If I click on this, we'll be able to see the property details. I'm going to add this, and I'm just going to use the Adobe Reader. Let's save it. Let's run this template. And now we're just going to be able to view this file as it is. So now Adobe is going to run. We have that information. We have our variables here, as I mentioned, in our design, we can't view all of that information, but at the end results, we can see all of that information that's coming from within the spool file. And it looks neat. Let's go to the last page just to make sure that we have all that. So we do have that. We have some additional fields here.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can get rid of that. Let's see. I'm not sure why it doesn't let me click on this guy.
Can hide in.
I know, right? Let's see if I can use this text zone options to actually click on that. I'm not sure why it's not showing up. Oh, it's not a table. Let's see if I can move this over. Right, let's see what that is. Okay, we'll just leave this as is. Not sure why that's not working out, but we can see that, at least we have that information, all that information there. Now that we have the way that we want it to look, minus this, we have the total, we have the information. Let's go ahead and let me see if I close this out. The good thing is that I saved this invoice templates. Let me go ahead and close this out.
That's
Open it.
why you gotta save all the time, right? And
Exactly.
one of the things that I like about the ability to save any of our templates is that if you do make some changes and you want to go back to an older version, you have the ability to do that.
That's right. So I still can't click on it.
Huh.
That's weird, but sure. All right. Well, let's proceed as if this still works.
Sure. I'll bring a little eraser too.
Yeah. We can look at that a little later. So let's say we have everything that we want. We like the look and feel. Well, let's run it one more time, just so I could show you the name of the file and how we're going to use the variables to actually move that along. So you can see that a file gets created and it has just like some random text because it's being created automatically, and it's a unique set of characters. However, we don't know what that is. So what I'm going to do is change the name of the file so that it says invoice. We're going to use a variable that we have created in the past. And again, this is the whole reason why we create variables, is so that you can keep reusing them in naming your files and emailing them out. So if I click on the invoice date here, actually, the invoice number. And just to make this a little bit more unique, I am going to use the system current time. Let's use the standard format. So that way it's always going to be a unique file that gets created. And if it doesn't, for whatever reason, I can override it using this option called delete. This will override it. It's not going to ask you if you want to delete it or not. It'll just create a whole new one. So let's save this, go back into the process. And now instead of using the Adobe Reader, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a new action. And here we can see the different ways that we can distribute. We can call APIs if you guys are doing, sending things out to portals through EDI, doing some business B2B transactions. We do have APIs available. We can also send out to SharePoint, FTP if you guys are still using that, and SFTP to the cloud like Dropbox, Google Drive. We can also upload to the document center. So if you guys are using SAP, we also have that capability. But a lot of our customers use the SMTP email mail driver to email. And here, this is where you will add your connection to that particular email server. As I mentioned before, we have a resource center where you already have connections, like this one in this case, my email, where it saves the server, it saves the port, the username and password, so that you can, kind of keep on reusing this. And let's say you have 10 templates and you don't use an option like this, you change your password. Now you have to modify 10 different templates rather than just modifying the connection within the resource center. And just making this as neat and as simple as we can make it.
We can also use, as you're working on this, we could have a mailing list, correct? If we knew that we need to send this invoice or we need to send this packing list, and there's like a list of email list of people that need to get it. Maybe it's a report and you need to send it, correct?
Correct, exactly.
Lucky you're using variables even in the email, so it looks like it's just it's been personalized.
Exactly, and it is personalized because it is grabbing information from the original file. So, we're going to make this very simple. We don't want to make it too complex, but again, you can add as much as you'd like. You can add as little. It's really up to you. We make it so that you guys have the power to make it as customizable as you guys like. And so the last thing is we do want to send this end document. We want to have this. If you want to add other attachments, we can do that as well. So let's say OK. We'll save it. And let me see if I can get rid of this guy. So now we have this SMTP email. Now, before I do send this email out, I want to show you guys what's new with Compleo, which is we do have a way to monitor the email status and have that be sent out to the invoice platform. So this is what I showed you guys in the beginning, where we can have this whole email, the PDF that's attached, be sent out to the platform so that management or yourself can look at invoices that have been sent out successfully to your customers, so that you guys don't have to worry about whether or not it's been sent out, has the customer received it, etc. So we've added that option, but to fully put that onto the invoice platform, we do have to link it to a report, and this is sent invoices. So this is just some additional values that we add to Compleo invoice platform, so that it has like the customer name, something I'm actually missing. So let me grab that. Let me create a variable here called customer name. Let's do a quick box around this. It's a little bit big, but that's okay because we can add a blank space to trim. Let's go back to the run mode and let's link this. So we have the customer name. Let's add that variable. The invoice number. So again, this is just tasks that we do once, and then we can just kind of keep reusing this. And then the invoice type is invoice. The invoice date, we have that here. The due date will actually add as a format, and we'll just say the current date today. This is the amount excluding tax. In this case, this invoice doesn't have any, so we can use the grand total. amount including tax, it's still going to be the grand total because there's no tax in this one. If there was taxes, we can add additional variables. In this case, we're not. This particular invoice doesn't have one, so we'll just leave this as 0, and the amount payable, again, just going back, it's going to be the grand total. Currency here, we're using dollars, so we can add that manually. If we had a currency that's added onto the spool file, then we can grab that as a variable. The sender name will use the actual username of the spool file. And then the comment, this is going to be an IBM spool invoice. So now that we've added all of this information, we can send this out to our invoice platform. So I'm going to show you that, how this runs. It's not going to work as intended because the whole point that we're doing here is we want to create a template in Layout so that we can use it for automation. I think I just received an email. Let me find it and click over here.
That fast?
So yeah, it was pretty fast. 12/13, 12/14. I created that invoice. It has the new date here. It's got all that information here. Now let's go into the invoice platform. So let's refresh this guy. You can see that there is a new field that's added. However, it's not showing the mail. And as I mentioned, the whole reason why it's not is because this is using our automation tool called Supervisor so that it monitors the status of whether it's been sent or not. However, we can view the actual file. We can see that it was sent successfully. So, just know that that does exist. It's fairly easy. And pretty much here we are done with the IBM side. So this is where it starts to get interesting. And I'm going to show you guys how this works for the SAP side. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask now. I'm not sure we're going to have enough time to get to the questions, but Juan's going to be here monitoring.
Yeah,
So if you guys have any
you can write in
questions,
the chat, and I am right here. Hopefully, I can help you answer all of them.
So let's go here to our smart list of files, and you can see here, in this case, SAP really doesn't play well with the text mode. So let's go into graphics mode for this particular one. Actually, before I do that, let me save this as an SAP invoice, right? Because I don't want to make any changes to the IBM invoice template. That's as perfect as it's going to get for today. But we're going to save this as an SAP template so that it works similarly with SAP. So now you can see that if I go into the graphics, this is how it looks like within SAP because it's using smart forms. It's using, logos, graphics, things of that nature to actually create the file. If I go here to the final view, you can see that, there's information that's misaligned, but that's okay because we're going to adjust this as we need to. And it's fairly simple, right? I can move things. All I really have to do is just move things around. So in this case, this is going to be the description. Let's make this text box over here, and we can just double check that here. So I have the description here. The next one is a unit price. So let's move this over here. Let's make this one smaller. All right, so we got the unit price. There is some additional work that needs to be done to get rid of this, but that's not a worry. We have the quantity here. All we have to do is move this guy down. We'll make this a little bit smaller. So that we don't have to do too much work. Move this guy down here. And then let me see if I can get rid of this guy now. Oh, this is the net price. So in this case, we don't have a net price. We're going to go ahead and delete this. And then grab the total price. Let's move this guy over here. Right. Let's see if I can get rid of this guy now. Guess not. Okay, I'm not sure where that's at, but All right, so you can see that I've kind of shifted things around. I got the description, I have the unit price, the quantity, but there is no net price. So what I can do is kind of move this or shift this around, uh, this over to the total price, move this guy over here, and make this one column less. So now we have the total price, we have the quantity. If I wanted to grab the item numbers, I can do that. I'm not going to do that right now, but just know that that's there. It looks like the build to information has also been moved around, so let's just kind of move this within this corner. And you can see if I go again to the final view, now it's within the actual box. What am I missing here?
So
So
a lot of it is just, again, finding the information is just formatted differently, right?
exactly
If you
correct.
just want all your invoices to look the same way, as move them and shift them to the correct area.
Exactly correct. So all the hard work that you've done is pretty much already been created. You just have to make modifications. So it's a lot less time than just working from scratch.
Okay.
I'm just gonna make this a little bit bigger. And because we've added all
It's
the extra formatting, it doesn't matter if, there's additional spaces here or there. And that's the whole reason why we use, the
this
good practice that we did in the beginning.
it sort of reminds me of like if you you live in your apartment and you have things in your living room layout a specific way, but then now you're gonna move to a different place and the windows are, it's facing a different, it's not facing south, now it's facing east, and the windows are different entrance. So all of that furniture, everything that you've been collecting, everything that just makes it like comfortable for you to hang out after work, just need to shift it now.
Exactly
Right?
correct. So, um, we can do additional work here, because in this particular invoice, it has taxes. It's got a total before tax. So we
Yeah.
can add additional things, and I'll kind of do that right now, and I'll show you how easy that can be. So before I do, I want to just create some quick variables. This will be, just say subtotal. Let's make this a little bit bigger. We'll add again. This is just for good practice. So we have the subtotal, and now let's grab the tax here. Set this formatting. Blank space. All right. So I have the grand total. I have um, the total before tax. So now let's go to the final view. So I can see that there is, kind of data that's on here. In this case, what I want to show you guys is that, this extra space really is kind of valued because it doesn't, since there is a description on like two different lines, you can see that it doesn't necessarily match up. So I am going to get rid of that particular field. I think it's this one. Delete lines. So let's go ahead and remove this. We'll hit apply, and then we'll copy, and then we'll paste it onto these guys. So now you can see that, each of these line items will align. It's got the total price, the quantity, and it still matches up within the table. So uh, there are two additional line items here that we're going to add, which is going to be the grand total. It's going to be at the end. Let's kind of move this guy here down. Let's make a copy of this guy. And so here we're going to have the subtotal. Okay. Or we have the taxes. And then here we'll just add that particular variable. So we'll have the subtotal, the tax. Let's highlight this guy. Let's get the tax. And then here below we'll have the grand total. So now let's just make adjustments as we need to. And by adjustments, I mean, because we made this position specific to a table, this one's okay. However, this one is not. We want to make this below the actual third table, and we'll say 0 below. So now this will always be below the subtotal, And same thing with this table. This one will now be below your taxes. We'll say 0. So now this all aligns. Let's save this and let's go ahead and run it. I think that's all. So let's go ahead and run this manually. We should hear a chime, which I just heard it right now. Let's go back to our email.
I think that's just the voices in your head, you know.
Maybe.
I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear anything,
Yeah.
Steve.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we do have, this new invoice. It's got, that same format that we just added. We got the
Mhm.
subtotal, we got the tax, we got the grand total. So we have all the information that's there. Kind of ignore this line. I'm not sure what
Mhm.
happened there. It's that same
Yeah,
line.
we gotta troubleshoot that after this. Don't worry. We'll
Yeah.
be
But we have that format. It's pretty much as easy as that. It took me like 10, 15 minutes to make it work for the SAP. Um, And so, we just have to do a little bit more formatting here to make it a little bit more neater, but
right.
it can be as quick as that. You've already done a lot of work on the IBM side. If you guys are moving to a new ERP, then, with Compleo Layout or just pretty much any Compleo tool, it really makes it fairly simple to transfer over the data to work from the IBM to the SAP.
Right. And especially if you already have these processes that are being automated for you and you know that they have been working, if you are moving to a new ERP, you want to make sure that you also bring those processes and that it continues to go that way. Otherwise, it's as you're learning this new system, it's also you got to figure out new ways to distribute your documents, and it's just really difficult.
Exactly. Correct, correct. And so, yeah, I mean, we've kind of covered a lot. There are things that I didn't get to because I wanted to show you guys a little bit more of the critical things. But,
Hmm.
again, if there was anything that I may have missed that you guys were interested that I didn't cover, again, I showed a little bit of the barcodes. If you guys wanted to do something very specific with barcodes, like actually creating, I think, what is the standard SSCC 18 logistic document or barcode that I know a lot of our companies have asked us to work with. If you guys are looking to work specifically with that process, we can also kind of show you how that works out.
Yeah.
All right. So, I mean, that kind of covers our training for today. Uh, if you guys, are looking for anything additional, you guys can always contact us. You can contact me at steved@simtrax.com and Juan. Where can they contact you, Juan?
It's 1R at simtrax.com. And
Awesome.
I really appreciate everyone that joined us. It's you guys are troopers. It was training went a little bit longer than what I thought. But I appreciate you as well, Steve, because you were able to troubleshoot, walk us through it, showed us not just layout for the AS400, but also for SAP. We looked at some of the new stuff that we have with Complete Invoice Platform, where you could do accounts receivable for or invoices. And yeah, hopefully, you guys learn as much as I learned today. I know I learned a few new tricks, and we'll be in contact.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you, Juan, and thank you everyone for joining us. Have a great reading.
All right. Bye.
All right.